Welcome to episode 31 of Warmaster's Workshop. Um, if you recall, back in episode 30, we created our helmet mold. Today, we are going to learn how to cast a helmet. And to do that, we're going to be using polyurethane resin. This is a product called Fabri-Cast 50. It is from Specialty Resin and Chemical Company. It is a white resin, so it's going to cure nice and bright white. We're going to be using some plastic cups to make our batches. We're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 batches. We may do an 8th batch as well, but we're definitely going to do 7. And each of these cups represents a batch. We're going to be starting out with about 7 ounces of resin, and we're gradually going to work that down to about 4 to 5 ounces as we get closer to the end. But the big goal, at least the reason why we use so much resin starting out, is because we've got to fill the fin here on the back. We fill that fin up. We don't have to use quite as much resin. We also want to make sure that we do our lip here around the top. Around the bottom. So yeah, let's go ahead and we'll get started. So I've already taken the liberty of shaking up our parts A and our part B. So this more yellow looking part is the part A. That is the hardener. The part B is the actual resin itself. It's the clear. But I've already shaken them up and I've let the bubbles dissipate. So let's go ahead and fill our cups. Now remember, we are measuring this by volume, not by weight. So we're going to start with 7 ounces, and I'm going to add the part A hardener to the part B resin. Just like that. Make sure you get all that out. Just going to set that off to the side. Just going to stir this for just a few seconds. The pot life on this is only about 1.5 minutes or 2.5 minutes. So we don't have long. Alright, we're just going to pull this up here. We're going to pour this right in. Just like that. Set that off to the side. Now the fun part, we're just going to start coating. And making sure we get that resin over every little bit. And you got to do this somewhat fast, because that resin will absolutely start to kick on you. There we go. You don't want it to pool either. So you just want to keep turning this. Whoop. Losing a little bit there. Slush it around. making sure I get this block nice and full, as well as my fin there. And make sure you don't drip the resin out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let it collect in the fin so that we fill. It's a little bit cooler out here in my shop. It's about 58 degrees, so the resin's probably not going to kick as fast as it would if it was hot in here. This is wintertime, so just going to move this, keep moving this around a little bit more. The good thing is the resin's not dripping at this point in the helmet. There we go. Now it's starting to sort of coalesce back down here. Alright, so you can see how it's starting to turn white in there where the fin is. So let's go ahead and add our next layer here. I'm going to pour my hardener, my part A hardener, into the part B resin. It's another 3.5 and 3.5 ounces to make 7. I'm going to stir this up. Make sure you keep a somewhat of a loose wrist when you do this so you don't slosh it all over the place. And I'm thinking our pot life here is probably quite a bit longer. Or it's probably a little longer because of the temperature of the shop. So I poured that in. It's going to take less time now because this first layer of resin is now warming up. It's going through its thermolytic reaction. I want to make sure we get there we go. All down in through here. Now, there's a trick to these cheeks I found. You want to pull the resin as far forward as you can. It looks like it's about to come out, and then push it back and you cover the cheeks. And then of course we've got to get our vent box down there, or computer box, whatever you want to call it. And get those ears. And we'll let that pool, and then we'll slosh it back, and look at that. It covers it perfectly, nice and beautifully. Same here. We'll let it pool right there at the edge until it looks like it's about to come out, and then we slosh it back, and we get that nice coat over the cheeks. Now you really want to watch and be careful, be mindful about the pooling. You do not want to create swirls. So now at this point, I'm going to let the resin drain down a bit to fill the bottom part of our fin and into the box. I'm just pushing this forward to get that box nice and filled up. And now all I have to do at this point is basically just let this sit here. We've already got our resin mix. Let's do our third layer. So we're going to pour the resin in, and then we shake it all about. I'm going to tell you, this is not something that you can think you're going to be able to do in just a few minutes and be done. Doing a slush cast of a helmet, you're looking at 30 plus minutes here. Clean off our stick, pour in our resin. Looks like we got a little something right here. There we go. Get that out of there, whatever that was. Oop. All right. And we're back at rotating. And again, let's step around here. We're going to get our resin right to the edge and then come back. We got a little bit of another little piece of something in there. There we go. Yeah, this resin's it's definitely getting warm. Same thing here, right to the edge. Whoop. There we go. And then just keep, sorry if I bumped the camera there, we just keep rotating and rotating. This time around, we did it a little bit different. We put, we're only doing 6 ounces instead of 7 ounces of resin. We don't need as much this time around. So, just stirring this up nicely. The next batch we'll probably do about 5 ounces, or maybe 5.5 ounces. I'm just going to get this nice and stirred. Alright, let's go ahead and pour this in. On the last pour, I'm going to use some black pigment. We're going to pigment this up so the inside has a nice black coating. We've got 5 ounces of part A and B together here, or I should say 5 ounces total, 2.5 of each. So this is our next to last batch. Get it good and stirred up here. I've got some smuts on the end of my glove there. Rake that off, put that in the other Dead Cup Society over here. Alright. You move that. I was using that to prop my mold up. But you can feel the heat in here. It's definitely a hot mold. And be careful you don't lose the resin, because then you got to clean it up. Just want to make sure I really get plenty of resin back here along this fin and this box, because those are potentially really thin areas, because they have some hard angles. I'm just going to turn this like this and let it sit. Let gravity do its work. I'm going to change my gloves and we're going to put in the last layer, which will have our black pigment, and that should do it. All right, so we've mixed our Part A and Part B, which we're only doing 4 ounces, and we've already put a drop of epoxy or polyurethane resin pigment in, just some black. So I'm just going to pour this in, just dumping it right in there. And we're going to continue with our casting. I want to get this black over everything, so we don't want to get it all over the place. So set that there. All right. And what this will do is, this will actually make the interior of the helmet a gray, because it's black on white. Now we can maybe do one more coating. We might do a 5th, or I'm sorry, an 8th layer here. There we go. This also helps you to see how much is left that needs to be coated. So we're getting this nice gray interior. Alright, and now at this point, I'm actually going to set this down and let that drain. If it drains out the bottom a little bit, I'm okay. I mean, I'm fine with that. But I want that to be smooth. Alright, so we're going to let this sit. We'll let that last layer settle down to the bottom. We'll come back and we'll check it, and we'll see if we need to put in one last layer of resin. Alright, so as you can see, our gray layer has kicked off, so I'm going to pour this last layer. This is actually an 8th batch here. That's fine. I'll pour that in. Set that over there, out of the way. This is only 4 ounces. This is the last bit, so you don't have a whole lot of time to sit here and lollygag. The great thing about the black is you can start to see it when it kicks. It turns gray. See how that's starting to turn gray? So you can see exactly when it kicks. Alright, so we've let our helmet sit and cure, and it feels extremely glassy and glossy on the inside. We don't really have any, I mean, we've got a few little high spots here, but nothing bad. There's no real, like, swirling or heavy drippy drips or anything like that. So I'm just gonna turn this over, and we are gonna pull our helmet from the mold. Alright, so I've got the screws out. I'm just gonna go ahead and open the mother mold here. Oh yeah. Let's pull off the other side. There we go. I'm just setting these over here. Alright. Now, for the moment of truth, we're just gonna, look at this, roll this back. You can already see the niceness. This is really nice. Alright. Just free all this up. That looks great. Alright, and now we're basically going to roll this over, just like this. And yes, it's not easy. We want to be careful. There we go. Once you get it started, it's just going to roll right off. So far, it's looking good. Wow, look at that. Let me keep this inside out for a little while so I can wipe it down. You'll have to forgive the dirtiness there. There's some dirt. Now there is a little bit of a lump back here, but it's not an air bubble. So I'm not sure what that's from, but otherwise, really it looks like it just needs a hit with some primer. Maybe a little bit of a quick, kind of maybe a little wipe down with some soapy water, but otherwise, this helmet came out great. All of the details were captured. You can see even the letters up here, the script, the poem was captured extraordinarily well. There'll be a little bit of picking out that'll have to be done with an X-Acto, but otherwise it came out really nice. All these corners are nice and sharp. The insignia of the Uniter came out nice. I mean, it is beautiful. Now, if you wanted to cover up some of these blemishes and stuff, I mean, this is just sort of soot that gathered in the mold. If you wanted to cover those up, you would do this in a black, or maybe you could do this first layer in black and the rest in white, or alternate between black and white, get a gray. But otherwise, I mean, look at all these. I mean, there's no air bubbles in here. I was really worried that I'd get some air bubbling, air pockets. None. I mean, this helmet really came out to be the very first pull. This helmet came out spectacularly. So there you have it. This is the first pull of the Lighthammer helmets. And that is how you pull a helmet from a silicone mold. So hopefully you've learned something. You've learned about doing large molds and casting at this point. Just going to do a quick sort of a pan here. But hopefully you've seen what it takes. If you do a similar sized helmet, you can use those same ratios of resin batches, those same volumes of batches, which were 7s. We started with 7, then we went down to 6, and then we went down to 5, and then we ended out with 4. And we were able to get a really nice, beautiful helmet. And you should be able to get 4 to 5 helmets. If you didn't have one that was a fin and you were just doing a standard Mandalorian helmet, you probably would definitely get 5. We might be able to get 5 out of this. We might be able to get 5. The fin actually takes up quite a bit of resin, but it is, I mean, it's solid. It's not going to crack or anything like that. It's a solid fin. So, anyway, yeah, thanks for joining me for episode 31 of Warmaster's Workshop. You'll see these helmets out and about. I'm probably going to do a giveaway with one here in the next maybe couple months. So, yeah, thank you to my Patreon supporters who have been supporting these since the start. It's been a huge help. It's been able to pay for making these tutorials. So if you're learning something and you want to continue learning and you want to continue my ability to teach others, please feel free to support these Warmasters workshops on Patreon. The link is in the bottom right hand or left hand corner, and in the bottom right hand corner, if you're a Mandalorian Mercs member, you can go to Ripper Blades and get yourself a $100 plus blade at 15% off using the code there, Mercs Ripper. So anyway, thanks for joining me for episode 31, and we will see you next time in the Warmasters Workshop.